Well, Maudine Mai, good morning, everyone. Real big thanks to Giles for the invitation to be here to talk about our work in the Open University in Ireland and how we're developing work outside of Ireland, which I think has been inspired largely by the work that the SRA has done, but also more recently work that we've been doing with the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. So just by way of background, a little bit about the Open University in Ireland. We're quite unique insofar as we serve two jurisdictions. So we are a funded university in the way that Kate has described in Northern Ireland, although we came a little bit late to the party there because of you'll be aware of the ups and downs of government in Northern Ireland. So we only became a fully funded devolved nation in 2012-13. So we have a little bit of catch up to do in terms of England, Scotland and Wales, but I think we're making good progress. We've always had a base in Dublin as well, and that was rather accidental. The advantage of being a university of the air means that television programmes from BBC can land into homes right across the whole of Ireland. So accidentally, the university started to recruit students from the Republic of Ireland as far back as the mid-1970s. So you have about 7,000 students in Northern Ireland and about 1,000 students in the Republic of Ireland, but we have really warm relationships with both governments, and Giles referenced that as well. We are, by being a smaller place, we have that advantage of being slightly closer to decision makers, which can be good and can be bad. Giles mentioned the road show that came to Northern Ireland in September 2016, and we had an event with the Coalition for Aid and Development, CADA, Northern Ireland back then. Really well attended, great discussion, and I think it really did inspire a lot of people on the day. It's a very small photograph, but there's a woman to the right in a white jacket who is an Open University graduate called Claire Hanna. At that point in time, she was a member of the Legislative Assembly, an MLA at Stormont, but now she's an MP. So we're very proud of another Open University alumnus as an MP, but she's very, very focused on global sustainable issues. So some of the work that we're beginning to do, particularly with FAST, is getting championed by Claire. The piece of work, well, I guess the thing that's facing universities right across Ireland at the minute is to be more innovative. And I think the thing that COVID has pushed us towards is the need to be much more collaborative in what we do. Just looking at the bottom of the slide, we're a strong member of Universities Ireland, and in fact we nearly had to fight not having to pay two membership fees because we're based in the Republic of Ireland and in Northern Ireland, but that is all the universities on the island of Ireland, and some of the things they're talking about is how we can share academic talent, facilities and ways to reach other parts of the world in terms of some of the research that's happening. And as Giles said, it's not always the high-tech research that developing nations really want to get hold of. The graphic in the middle is a programme funded by the Northern Ireland Assembly, and it's quite unique within the United Kingdom, whereby the Assembly Research Department put out a call each year to universities on hot topics. So these are presentations by academics from Queen's, Ulster, Open University, but now also Stranmillis College and St Mary's College, whereby that leading edge academic research can feed into policy discussions at the Assembly. And top of the list there is the Northern Ireland Science Industry Panel called Matrix, and as a university who's probably best known for teaching and learning, we had to sort of fight tooth and nail to be part of that. But again, a lot of the work within STEM, for example, would be showcased within the work of Matrix. So the big thing for us is collaboration. And the project I'd maybe like to focus on for the rest of the discussion was probably an accidental way into some international work over the last number of years. That's a very grainy image from the mid-1970s, and if your eyesight is really good, you can see the strapline is the site of the OU's Audist Study Centre. So many people will be aware that in the late 1960s, early 1970s, right through to the year 2000, Northern Ireland was the focal point of very significant conflict, sometimes called the Troubles. These were old Royal Air Force mission huts just outside Belfast, and when the Troubles were really kicking off, there was an internment of Republican and Loyalist activists, and they were literally just arrested and put in this rather interesting camp called Long Kesh at the time. And it sort of happened overnight, but you were literally getting thousands of people incarcerated. And there was a social worker who lived quite close to the place, contacted the original Open University in Ireland director, Gordon McIntyre, And Gordon did what any good nation director does. He did something and then sought the permission of the university to do it. So quite early on, the Open University was delivering education courses within the prison. And when the prison closed in the year 2000, there was lots of talk about an international peace and reconciliation centre being built on the site. €20 million had been secured from the European Union, but due to the normal political fractures we have in Northern Ireland, it didn't go ahead and the money went back to Europe. But at that time, we were beginning a project where we were going to capture the experiences of Open University staff and the students and the prison staff about how education, talking to people, could feed into a peace process. Because within the archive that I'm going to describe in a little moment, there is a quote that says, without the Open University, there would not have been a peace process. Now, that's a very generous comment. I think it really should have been, without education and bringing people together to talk, there wouldn't have been a peace process. So on the back of that, we developed with the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences and the University Library a Time to Think digital archive, which contains over 100 interviews with former Loyalist prisoners, Republican prisoners, tutors, prison education staff. And we launched that in 2019 to celebrate the 50th birthday of the Open University. I think some people thought it was an overnight success. It took us 7 years to put it together. And we did run into lots of odd issues along the way. There was the Boston College Digital Archive caused a lot of issues with the Police Service of Northern Ireland in terms of what people were putting into archive. But ours was a very educational one from day one. So what we've done with that archive is it is live, anybody can access it. So if you click in Open University Time to Think, you'll get access to everything. But we started taking the conversation about how you can create, how you can transform people's ideas about how they think about themselves, about their culture, about their relationships with other people. We started doing that in Belfast through a range of conferences, and we've now taken it a bit more internationally. So we're now part of a program called, if I can speed my writing, Foundations for Peace, and that involves colleagues from Georgia, Indonesia, Palestine, Serbia, Bangladesh, India, and Sri Lanka. And what we're doing as a group of academics and community-based organisations is to develop CPD materials that we hope to get philanthropy funding for over time. So from a small project, which was kind of historic, we dipped our toe into that, and that's moving very, very well for us. We've also produced some open learn resources, which have been very successful. This is a great academic idea. We're sitting talking about time to think, and someone said, we're in lockdown now. How are people coping? Is there anything we could add to the conversation and to help people with reflections of people who were incarcerated in prison against their will, obviously, but in a very unusual way? So we created a course, a collaborative course with two former prisoners, Michael Culbert, a Republican prisoner, and Ron McMurray, a Loyalist prisoner. And Gabby Kent from the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences was the academic driver of this. So it's a 6-hour course, 30,000 users in 1 year. And interestingly, the bulk of them were from outside of the UK. So, it's a spin-off piece of work. And I think that's what started to move us into different ways of working with this learning that we think is probably very local, but does have an international resolution to it. So the other thing we've done recently, you may have heard of a thing called Brexit, and you may have heard of a thing called the Northern Ireland Protocol, which hasn't landed really well with lots of people in Northern Ireland. And in Easter 2021, there was a very seismic shift in terms of political unrest and civil unrest in Northern Ireland when particularly young Loyalists took to the streets, and probably for about a week or so there was lots of prolonged rioting. It really did rattle with local communities, and one of the Loyalist groups that we worked with, the ACT Initiative, got a request from a local school, the Boys Model School in Belfast, just off the Shankill Road. Very, very successful school, but 8 of their young people had been arrested, and 2 of them were facing criminal charges for rioting. So the principal didn't know what to do. The Loyalists, because many of them had already been in prison and had done this sort of 40 years ago, were sort of saying this is life-changing, you don't want to go down that route. They began to create a course about thinking about identity and individual responses to trigger events like a political situation like this. So they came to us and said, look, we think we've got some really good traction with these young kids. What about us doing a course together? So again, Gabby got the call, and we produced over the past year a course called Why Riot. It's a 3-part open learn course. It's been in pilot over the summer period. Really good responses. We struggled with the title because we were working with the young people as they were developing it as well. They wanted titles like "We're Not Hoods." Now, that means something in Belfast. I'm not sure if it means something in Milton Keynes. So we centred on Why Riot, and again, we're not sure that's the right title for it. But an interesting thing happened during the second phase of pilot. Some older young men came to the course that was being talked about in the local community centre, and they were attracted by the word riot. So I'm not sure they came to the course for the right sorts of reasons, but once the course started, they stuck with it. So we've just piloted it. We had a launch event last week in an interface area in Belfast. And as usual, with the Open University, we decided to take a few risks. So as well as having the community that this was aimed at, we had people from the Republican side of the community, we had police, we had community workers, and we also had representatives from the International Fund for Ireland who fund the ACT initiative, and it landed really well. One of the reasons it landed so well was we had some of the young people who were involved in the course talking about it. So the really young ones are the ones that were arrested probably about a year ago. That's 5 of them. Out of the 8 people, out of those 8 kids that did the course, 7 are now in employment, even though they were kicked out of school. And one guy, you can see him on the second left there in a school uniform, is sort of halfway through his A-levels. So I know it's small numbers, but it shows you the power of that sort of course where a detailed tutor like William Mitchell, Dr. William Mitchell, he's on the extreme left. William was arrested when he was 17 and imprisoned for 15 years. He did his O-levels at Longkesh. He did a community education degree with the Open University, got a PhD with the University of Surrey many years later, and is now a leading youth worker in Northern Ireland. The woman over to the right is our course creator, Gabby Kent. So where we are now, we're coming to the end of phase 2 pilot. We're doing some tweaks around the edges. But the next stage is working with the International Fund for Ireland to look at different variants of this course. Because feedback we got on the day from youth workers is, this could go to any part of the UK where the issue may not be political violence. It could be knife crime, it could be racial, it could be anything. So this is part of a wider programme we're developing with Gabby Kent and Ian Fribbins in terms of internationalising some of the techniques. The big thing about this course is it's not a course, it's a methodology. So we developed it with the young people, we developed it with community workers, and I think it's that, and you've used this term before, sort of, Giles, it's that sort of the OU as the facilitator, and probably the organisation that takes the risk to put a programme like this out. But it's very much ground up. So we're happy to explore that with the faculty and with colleagues in the room as well. So that's just a very quick overview of what we're doing. But again, thank you to Giles and colleagues within the SRA, because, and Kate said it, within a nation, we can do things locally, but having that wider leverage that the university can bring to the table has been very helpful. So, Goramailgav, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day.